The city of Richfield, located just south of Minneapolis, proudly proclaims itself Minnesota's oldest suburb. Indeed, the community got its start due to the area's proximity to Fort Snelling, but it was Richfield's extraordinary growth after World War II that made it the state's preeminent suburban city. Fort Snelling drew the first settlers to what would become Richfield in the 1820s. Fertile farmland, which also gave the community its name, brought more residents in the 1850s. The village thrived as an agricultural center, supplying produce to nearby Minneapolis and other cities further away. Richfield incorporated itself in 1908. Suburban development in Richfield began in the late 19th century, but the first housing developments were sparse and isolated. This began to change in the 1910s when Minneapolis streetcars reached the village limits, and when automobiles and roads both became more reliable. In 1924, the opening of the St. Paul Ford Motor Company plant just across the Mississippi River ignited Richfield's first real suburban house building boom, but the Great Depression and World War II quickly cooled it. After the war, returning American GIs created an unprecedented demand for housing. Richfield, with its open farm fields and closeness to Minneapolis, became a perfect target for housing developers. By 1947, some 100 houses were going up in Richfield each month. Longtime Richfield resident Gertrude Ulrich remembers the boom.
When we moved here, there were only 17,000 people, and at the peak of the population reached almost 50,000.
Right.
So you can see there was a huge amount of building.
Among other benefits, the GI Bill of Rights gave returning veterans access to low-interest mortgages, allowing them to buy houses ranging from $8,000 for an 816-square-foot model to $10,500 for one with an attached garage. Richfieldian Sherman Boone paid $9,300 for his house.
Well, we thought it was a lot. We talked about it, talked with my dad about it, and of course I'd never bought a house before. And coming out of the service, didn't have a lot of money, and so there were cheaper houses available, but they were not like mine.
Because builders and buyers both wanted to save money wherever they could, many of these new suburban homes were simple in style and appointments. Carpeting and landscaping were luxuries to be added later, and many houses were built to identical plans. But the houses were impressive enough to first-time buyers like Ulrich.
See, one of the things that I liked best about that house, as you looked at it from the outside, it had a very dignified appearance. It had a very dignified entrance. You walked up, you didn't have to search around to find the front door. It was obvious where the front door was.
Boone recalled that these basic houses were perfect for those just starting out.
Yeah, that's a starting place. Richfield is a starting place for homes, for living. You could buy it like we did. We bought a recently replaced home, and it's still that way. It's a starter.
Yeah.
It's a starter home. And Richfield happened to have a lot of them.
The surge of new houses and new families was not without problems. The sudden growth taxed Richfield's infrastructure. Storm sewers, gas lines, and other utilities required expansion. New schools and civic buildings had to be built. Police and fire crews needed new recruits. Richfield's population of 4,000 people in 1940 swelled to 42,000 by 1960. It took more than houses, schools, and utilities to make a suburb. Like people, stores were moving away from the cities and out into the suburbs. Richfield saw its share of new shopping centers open in the years after World War II. The community's Hub shopping complex opened in 1954. The Hub offered a department store, a grocery store, a pharmacy, and, unlike downtown Minneapolis stores, free parking. Southdale Mall, which opened later that year in neighboring Edina, took the Hub concept a step further by enclosing its stores under a single roof in the country's first indoor shopping mall. Boone remembered the Hub in its early days.
The Hub was built before Southdale, so at that time it was they had a lot of big shops, good shops, because Southdale hadn't been built. Well, this is a pretty big shopping center.
Suburban growth continued to reshape Richfield over the years. Today, the city's population stands at 35,000 people. Young families live next door to retirees who've been in the same houses for half a century. Despite the growth, Richfield retains the small-town feel, with easy big city access, that has drawn people to it for more than 60 years.